All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT exam practice series. We're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack and practice exam. As always, when you pass, please let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. A functional analysis determines that a client's crying behavior happens to obtain a tangible. You, a behavior technician, are told to prompt the client to say toy please when they don't have access to the toy, and to reinforce whenever they say toy please, even if they are crying. What intervention are you likely using? Intervention question, and we're looking at you because in this scenario, you are the behavior technician. A functional analysis determined. Remember, a functional analysis is when we manipulate antecedents and consequences to figure out a function, and we determined the function was obtain a tangible, meaning the behavior occurs in order to gain access to an item. Now, you, the technician, are told to prompt the client to say, toy please, when they don't have access to the toy. Now, why would you do that? Well, the idea is instead of crying, the client can say, toy please. Or even if they're crying, they can still communicate by saying, toy please. So you're going to teach them to say toy please when they don't have access to the toy. And you're supposed to reinforce whenever they say toy please, even if they are crying. Now that's very important. So we're looking at an intervention, specifically differential reinforcement. Differential reinforcement occurs when we reinforce one behavior, put other behaviors on extinction. We're teaching typically new behaviors unless we're using a differential reinforcement of other behaviors. So the first question you ask yourself is, are you teaching a replacement? In this case, we are. We're teaching toy please. So you can immediately eliminate differential reinforcement of other behaviors. DRO, the differential reinforcement of other behaviors, does not teach a replacement. If you find yourself in a question that teaches a replacement behavior, you can eliminate DRO. That leaves you with alternative or incompatible. And those two are exactly alike, except with differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. The replacement can happen at the same time as the old behavior. Incompatible, it can't. So you have to ask yourself, can my replacement behavior, toy please, happen while they're crying? And we know it can't because you have to reinforce for the replacement even if they are crying. So you're not teaching an incompatible behavior, you're teaching an alternative behavior. Differential reinforcement, once you start to break it down like that, becomes very, very simple. And differential reinforcement is an invaluable tool for you as a technician. It's as important to know as our consequences like reinforcement, punishment, and extinction. You have to know differential reinforcement. Jess tells her two daughters that she is about to clip their fingernails. The two daughters run to their room and lock the door. The mom spends 30 minutes getting them out of the room. The daughters now run to their room when it is time to clip their fingernails. Why? Why? What? What is the question asking? The question is asking, why do the daughters run to their room when it is time to clip their fingernails? Well, in order to determine that, we need to figure out our antecedents and consequences. We know that Jess tells her daughters she's going to clip their fingernails. In response, what do the daughters do? They run to their room and lock the door. So the antecedent is just telling them they're going to clip their fingernails. The response is going to their room and locking the door. What's the consequence? Well, the consequence is the mom has to spend 30 minutes getting them out of the room. What have the two daughters achieved by running to their room? Well, they've escaped the fingernail clipping, or I should say avoided the fingernail clipping for at least 30 minutes. So now every time it's time to clip their fingernails, they go to their room because at least they'll avoid the fingernail clipping. When we talk about escape avoidance, what consequence are we referring to? What consequence is associated with escape avoidance? A, positive reinforcement. Well, it's not positive. Escape avoidance is not positive. Escape avoidance either removes, prevents, or delays the onset of something. In this case, locking the door delays fingernail clipping for 30 minutes. So they didn't add anything. What they did was take away the threat of the fingernail clipping for at least 30 minutes. They avoided it. And when you escape or avoid, that's associated with negative reinforcement. Why can it not be punishment? Well, it can't be punishment because the daughters continued doing it in the future. Punishment decreases, remember? So if the behavior continues to happen, we know it cannot be punishment. So what do we know? We know they avoided it and the behavior continued in the future. It must be negative reinforcement. Your kids always leave their shoes and toys on the ground. You usually just walk around the shoes and toys, but this morning you jumped over the items. What does your behavior represent? All right, we're looking at your behavior. And what behavior in particular? Well, you jumped over the items. Now, in context, why do we care? Well, your kid always leaves their shoes and toys on the ground. Typically, you just walk around the shoes and toys. But today, what did you do instead? You jumped. So you changed your response. So what does your behavior represent? A, differentiation. Differentiation, also known as response differentiation, is when a different response occurs in the presence of a stimulus. And that's exactly what happened here. You differentiated your responses. Instead of walking around the shoes and toys today, you jumped over the shoes and toys. What's the difference between differentiation and discrimination? Discrimination, also known as stimulus discrimination, is when you are able to choose or tell the difference between stimuli. The stimuli aren't changing in this case, it's shoes and toys. All that's changing are your responses. You kind of have to ask yourself, is my response changing? Am I differentiating responses? Or are there multiple stimuli and I'm deciding between these stimuli? In this case, you have multiple responses. It's not shaping. We don't have any approximations occurring here. And it's not functional communication training because we're not communicating. This is a good example of knowing your vocabulary is so useful. Shaping an FCT should not even be considered. And if you're fluent in your vocabulary, you can basically get this question quickly down to 2 answer choices. And then you just have to know the difference between stimulus discrimination and response differentiation. Easy from there. Be fluent. Fluency is the key. When Aaron first started dating his girlfriend, he would always cook for her on Thursday nights. The girlfriend would tell Aaron how great the meal was each time. Since then, when Aaron cooks, the girlfriend often does not give compliments, which has led to Aaron cooking less and less. What is occurring? What is occurring in this scenario? We know Aaron first started dating his girlfriend, and he would always cook for her on Thursday nights. As a consequence, the girlfriend would tell Aaron how great the meal was, so she'd give him positive praise, positive reinforcement, and Aaron continued to cook. However, when Aaron cooks, now the girlfriend does not give the compliments, and as a result, Aaron is cooking less and less. So that's the 2 key items here. The girlfriend is no longer giving the compliments. Aaron is cooking less and less. So let's start with Aaron cooking less and less. What is his behavior doing? It's decreasing. And when we have decrease in behavior, we know either extinction or punishment or play here. What is the consequence? Well, the consequence is the girlfriend is just not giving compliments. She's not adding anything. She's not taking away anything. She's withholding something. She's withholding the reinforcement. When you withhold reinforcement for previously reinforced behavior, what do we call that? We call that extinction. The most difficult part, I think, about extinction and punishment is distinguishing between the 2. Extinction, we withhold. Punishment, something is actually added or taken away. So what is occurring? A, positive punishment. Well, the girlfriend not giving compliments is not adding anything, so it cannot be positive, so A is out. It can't be B, negative reinforcement, because Aaron's behavior is decreasing. Reinforcement increases behavior. We said it's extinction because the girlfriend is doing what? She's withholding compliments, withholding reinforcement, and it can't be negative punishment. She's not taking away anything. She's withholding it. She's not giving it. It's very, very different, okay? Negative means something's been removed. In this case, nothing's changing, right? She's just not giving the same reinforcement as before. It's a very important distinction to make. So what is actually occurring? Well, C, extinction. Continuous reinforcement would most likely be produced for which of the following behaviors? Continuous reinforcement is one of our basic reinforcement schedules, or basic reinforcement strategies, I should say. Continuous reinforcement is associated with what schedule? An FR1, fixed ratio 1. The only schedule that is continuous is an FR1 because every single response gets reinforced. So what which of these four behaviors would be continuously reinforced? Meaning, which of these behaviors or situations would receive reinforcement every single time it occurred? A, spinning the reels on a slot machine. Why can't A be correct? Well, A can't be correct because the slot machine effect is variable ratio. It's not even the same reinforcement schedule. A should not even be on your radar. Don't even consider A. B, a toddler asking for a cookie before breakfast and dinner time. Do we think a toddler asking for a cookie prior to breakfast and dinner time is going to be continuously reinforced? Probably not. We always talk about not making assumptions. There's exceptions to every rule. In this case, you have to make some sort of assumption, right? You have to think to yourself, would this behavior get reinforced every time? And a toddler asking for a cookie before breakfast and dinner time would likely not produce reinforcement every time. What about C, you turning on the radio to hear your favorite song? Well, how many times have you turned on the radio or the TV or whatever you watch and your favorite show or song isn't on? That's just how it goes, right? You can't guarantee every time you turn on the radio, your favorite song is going to be playing. Very unlikely it will be continuously reinforced. However, turning on the water in the sink to wash your hands, every time you turn on the water in the sink, what happens? The water comes on. Unless something is very out of the ordinary or something is just broken, you're likely to receive reinforcement every time you turn on the water in the sink. So continuous reinforcement would most likely be produced for turning on the water in the sink to wash your hands. Each time Anne attempts to put a crayon in her mouth, her dad pushes her hand down before she can get it to her mouth. Slowly, Anne stops putting crayons near her mouth. What is the dad implementing? All right, we're looking at the dad here, okay? We know what? We know Anne tries to put crayons in her mouth. The dad pushes her hand down before she can get it to her mouth, so she's not even able to complete the response. As a result, Anne stops putting crayons near her mouth. So let's look at Anne's behavior. Anne's behavior has done what? It's decreased. Decreasing means it's either punishment or extinction. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the consequence? Well, the consequence, right, is the dad pushes her hand down. So the dad is blocking the response, right? He's adding his own physical presence and preventing the behavior from happening. So what is the dad implementing? A, response blocking. Yes, this is response blocking. Response blocking occurs when we prevent a response from completing. In this case, Anne is trying to put the crayons in her mouth. The dad is pushing the hand down over and over before she can get to her mouth. He is response blocking. Response blocking is not extinction. Response blocking is a type of punishment procedure. So what the dad is doing is he's response blocking, but he's also initiating positive punishment. He's adding his physical presence, preventing the behavior from happening. He's implementing positive punishment. It can't be reinforcement because Anne's behavior is decreasing, it's not increasing. So we know if Anne's behavior is decreasing, it's got to be punishment or extinction. It can't be extinction because something is being added, and we know response blocking is being added, and response blocking is not extinction. So the dad is implementing A, response blocking, and B, positive punishment. Notice how everything is starting to connect together when we talk through it. And that's what it's going to become like, right? Just one giant web, everything connects. It's response blocking, which isn't extinction, but it is positive punishment. It can't be reinforcement because the behavior's decreasing. Therefore, it's got to be blocking and positive punishment. It's eventually going to get to the point where you're that quick. Don't rush it, right? Take your time, but eventually you'll get to that point, and it's going to be just like that, right? You can talk through it, quickly find the answer. Which of the following answer choices is not a requirement for using permanent product to measure behavior? Interesting question. Permanent product is what? Let's start there. Permanent product is when we measure the result or the outcome of behavior, whatever the behavior produces. And we don't have to actually watch the behavior happen. We just measure what the behavior creates or produces. Question is asking, what is not a requirement? Meaning it doesn't have to be there, doesn't have to be present, doesn't have to happen to use permanent product. So we can't really talk our way through it yet. So let's jump in. Okay, we won't normally jump in, but this one you kind of have to. So we're looking for not, meaning 3 of these will likely be. Okay, what is not a requirement? A, every occurrence of the target behavior should produce the same product. That is a requirement. If you're going to take permanent product, the same product needs to be produced over and over, or else your measurement isn't going to make sense. B, the product should only be produced by the target behavior. Absolutely. Remember, we don't have to see the behavior happen. So if multiple behaviors are producing the product, that could be a problem. You really want the product to be produced by the target behavior. And then C, the target behavior should produce a product that can only be measured shortly after the behavior occurs. Think about C. The target behavior should produce a product, yes, right? But that can only be measured shortly after the behavior occurs. What if you can't come and measure the permanent product until 5 hours after the behavior? C is not going to cut it. Permanent product means it's permanent, right? It's giving you enough time to come measure it. So C is not a requirement because shortly after the behavior occurs, it's going to make it very difficult to take that permanent product data. Really think about C if you don't understand it. Permanent product means you're measuring the outcome, so the product. We need that product to stick around for quite a while so we can get true measurement of what occurred. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Please subscribe if you have not already. Spread the word. Let us know when you pass. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.